All right, welcome back to this episode of The Stack Flesh and Blood Edition. I am your host this week. I'm Tommy Fresh. I'm from Fresh and Buds, but I am stepping in to host The Stack this week, and it is brought to you by the wonderful people over at Realm Gaming, and the Realm Gaming Fall Brawl coming to us this October, which you can get all the information for that on realmgamingnetwork.com. Very excited for that one. We have a guest that you might know, Mr. Matt DeMarco, a.k.a. Flake, a.k.a. the love of my life. How you doing, buddy?
I'm well. That was quite the introduction. I gave you the keys to the palace, and you definitely, you tidied up, so that's nice. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, you know, we got to keep a clean and tight ship over here. Very excited to do this with you. You know, I was very blessed to have come on and been on the other side of these mics before, but today is going to be a lot of fun. So, are you ready?
I am ready. I'm ready. I've never been on this end, so let's go. Hit me.
We saw a Dash win the Calling Singapore. She will also win the Pro Tour.
That's a fizzle, and I'll tell you why. Because Dash is a good hero, don't get me wrong. I just feel like when the book's out on a hero, then things kind of change. Singapore was a week before France. A lot of the people that are playing in France did not play in Singapore, obviously, and I don't think there's enough time for them to figure out at how to change their hero or pivot to Dash. So I think that there will be a lot more people aware of Dash and perhaps prepared for it, but not pivoting to it. So there's going to be not as many Dashes as I think people may suspect. There may be some people who last minute switch to it, but I think that it's not going to be as widely chosen as a hero as people think. So I'm going to go fizzles, purely off the fact of numbers.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I mean, you know, maybe they will be packing their smashing good times and arc smashes for all you brute players out there. We will see a Levia player win on camera at the Pro Tour.
Okay, well, my heart... My mind says no, but my body says yes. I'm going to go with fizzles on this. And the reason being, again, this is going to go through the number grinder. And early on, first of all, there's not going to be many Levias. There's going to be a handful of them. Secondly, they have to be winning to have the opportunity to be on camera, typically because we're hunting for feature matches. Usually you get the top of the bracket, the top of the Swiss. So they're going to have to win. Unless it's in the early stages and we can scoop one, trust me, the best time to watch these tournaments are usually rounds 1 and 2, because that's where you have your pick of the litter of fun matchups. You can go ahead and get the Katsus and the Levias. I say that, unfortunately, there's not going to be many of them. They're going to have to win. So there's too many factors. There's too many variables here. Finding one, having them have a record to put on camera, and besides that, having them win on camera. That's a fizzles.
That's going to be a tough one for the League of Levia to swallow. We do have Ethan over there. I picked him in my Pro Tour fantasy draft.
Fool.
So I am hoping that was right, and I know I was right. So the top 8 of the Pro Tour will be represented by 5 or more different heroes.
I'm going to say that resolves. Singapore with the four Briars was an outlier, I feel. I feel like Briar was just well positioned within that meta, perhaps. But I think we're gonna have a Phi, maybe 2. We're gonna have a Guardian or 2. We're going to have I feel like there's gonna be some sort of ice or disruption hero, be it Icelander or Oldham represented. I think there's going to be a Briar up there. And possibly, I think there's going to be a Prism up there. I really do. So I'm going to say this resolves, but in terms of what's going to be up there, I could be completely wrong. It could be like 5 Phis and like, you know, 2 Icelanders and you know, a sprinkle in like something odd in there, like a Guardian. But ultimately, I do believe that resolves. I think it's going to be a really nice, well-rounded meta. You're going to have some Viserai in there, some Phi, some Briar, some Guardian, some Ice. I think that's a very confident resolve.
To go to the point of the 4 Briars in the Singapore calling, the other 4 heroes were different, as far as I remember, which it's still 5. And,
yeah.
You know,
Viserai, Dash, Fi, and Icelander. So
yeah.
that was 5 heroes, despite the fact that there was a nice 4-pack of Briars in there.
There is some secret Uprising limited tech that some teams have discovered and will kind of put to practice in the Pro Tour.
That's a fizzles, and the reason why that fizzles is because you have such a limited amount of variables within draft that you basically, these pros have not only drafted a million times at armories or RTNs or ProQuests or whatever, but ultimately they've drafted the crap out of this ahead of Pro Tour just out of practice. People are cracking boxes and making eight man pods to play the game and practice ahead of Lille. I firmly believe that everything is out there. There's no crazy tech. No one's going to be hunting and scooping up all the transmogrifies because suddenly people are on to transmogrify in that regard. I think that the major concern is more so about what hero you should be focusing on. Some people are like, you just force Fi. That's always your best option. And other people are read the room and pick Icelander if you see, a lot of ice coming your way. In terms of tech cards, everyone's going to be hunting for, the Oasis Respites, hunting for the red Scar for Scars, things like that. Everybody's going to be high-valuing equipment. I don't think there's any tech left. I think that it's been figured out.
Prism will get her Living Legend points this weekend.
I'm not 100% sure in terms of how. Does it have to top 8 or does it have to win?
Has to win. And I think there's a calling as well.
And a battle hardened, right? And there's a battle hardened
is yeah.
Yeah, so assuming that the battle hardened and the calling are both classic constructed, I'm going to go resolves on this. And the reason why I'm going resolves on this is because the calling occurs on day 2 of the entire shenanigans because things start on Friday. Day 2 is the calling. So everybody who scrubs out of Pro Tour will probably enter the calling. And if it's not a favorable Prism meta in Pro Tour, then all the Prisms are going to get bounced out. But all the people out there, all the good players who are hunting the Prisms and beating the Prisms are going to go on, and they're not going to play in the calling. So the Prisms might have a favorable meta in the calling. And then the same thing occurs. You have an extra filtration level if you go to the Battle Harden, and then Prism might win the Battle Harden. So I think that everything's lined up for somebody to win with Prism, and I think that's a resolve. This
one actually comes from Mara from Blackwing Studio. Dromai will win a major event in 2023.
I think that's a definite resolve, and the reason why is because once Prism gets rotated out, I feel like Dromai might be best suited to deal with control decks, which I believe that control is going to be very, very prominent once Prism is kind of relieved of her duties of policing all these Guardians that are out there. I feel like Dromai, with a lot of presence on the board and establishing permanence, as there would be called, like with the Dragons and the Ashwings, etc. I think that Dromai is well positioned once the Guardians come out of hiding to kind of feast on some of that. I am actually very high on Dromai in 2023 with supplemental sets improving Illusionist. I think that it's only up for Dromai. I think that's a very fair resolve.
Heard it here first, folks. Flake thinks Dromai is taking the world by storm in 2023. Seems like Mara had given up on Dromai in 2022 by that statement, but that's neither here nor there. Dynasty, our next set, will shake up constructed metas more so than Everfest did.
I mean, shake up metas and completely define them. Like, Starvo came out of Everfest. So how are you going to shape the meta more so than the most dominant hero that's ever existed? I feel like Chain back in the day was the strongest deck ever created, but Starvo was probably the most impactful hero. It went from Living Legend or from print to Living Legend in months. What took Chain a couple of years to do, right? I will say that fizzles because Everfest really was one hell of a throttle down for just power levels of stuff. And I think that Dynasty, which was designed, I believe, after Everfest was designed. I mean, obviously it was designed after, but I mean, I think Everfest's impact was felt while, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but ultimately, Everfest's impact of just printing Starvo itself was way too big. The amount of cards that came out of there, I think you also had, I mean, you had all the auras for Prism. You had Miraging Metamorph, Swarming Gloomveil. Like, there's a lot of big cards that came out of that. I think Revelant Runeblood came out of Everfest as well. Like, there's so many big cards that came out of Everfest that it'll take a lot of oomph from Dynasty to match that level of meta impact. So I'm going to say fizzles, but I am ready to be wrong.
I'm going to agree with you there. You know, one of my favorite cards out of Everfest was Swing Big. The only way they can beat that is by printing a card called Swing Bigger. So the next new class will be the Necromancer.
I want it to be, but it's going to be Assassin, so that fizzles. I don't know that offhand, or do I? I don't know that offhand, or do I? But Assassin, I feel like all signs point to Assassin in terms of all the clues that were hidden in, I say hidden, that you can kind of pull out of some of the lore drops that they've had on the website. James White loves to see us speculate, loves to see us really stew with random and really grasp at straws. You and I went hard in the paint trying to figure out stupid stuff about Uprising, and we were all wrong. But James absolutely was just having a blast when it came to us trying to figure that out. I'm going to say fizzles, and I say it fizzles because my personal belief is that the next hero is an assassin.
The final statement I have for you came in from a friend and a listener, Mr. Pat Shaw, a.k.a. Patty No Rails from the Combat Chain podcast. Flake is the big spoon in Flake Fresh?
Whew. I mean, I don't mind having some sort of Thomas-style cocoon around me, keeping me warm and secure. Kind of like a husk. Like I wear you like some sort of Thomas husk. I wouldn't mind having a cold foil Thomas husk. Just for comfort's sake, I need to know that you're there, and I need to hold on to you because I don't want you to go anywhere. So that's a resolves. However, I'm open to, you know, just switching it up here and there. Yeah, it's just as long as there is some sort of spoon action, then I'm all aboard.
Well, we will talk about it later off air. This has been the stack with you know, my good friend Matt DeMarco, aka Flake, aka one of the best people you could ever meet, and unfortunately uses the metric system. This has been a lot of fun. You know, please plug all your things, Matt.
Well, this website, this YouTube channel, you can go ahead and hit the subscribe button there. On Twitter @WatchFlake. That's about it. I mean, usually I do that to you, but you've been on this program and on this network way too often. You even have the merchandise, you legend. So, yeah, thanks for you know, picking up the slack, because I was like, this seems like so much fun. I want to do it myself. So great statements. Well done. I appreciate it. The Stack is brought to you by Realm Gaming in Mansfield, Ohio, a wonderful place to get your flesh and blood fix, but not just that, they also specialize in Magic the Gathering and Pokemon. So if that's where you need to be to get your card fix, that's the place you want to go. RealmGamingNetwork.com. Keith and Jacob, who run the place, are developing a wonderful community of fun and inclusivity. They are also the ones who put on that magnificent 10K out in Ohio. So if you want to get a good fix on cards or just play the game, if you're in the Ohio region, you want to go to Realm Gaming. RealmGamingNetwork.com.